Good morning. Welcome back to Godly Play and happy Easter. Let's get ready for our story this morning. Let's do our 3 breaths. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Are you ready? Now, I know that you have heard bits and pieces of this story over the last few weeks, but we're going to get to hear the whole thing today. In the beginning, the baby was born. God chose Mary to be the mother of God. Listen carefully. Listen to the words. God chose Mary to be the mother of God, and the Word was born, a wordless child. When the baby looked up into the face of the Mother Mary, he saw the cross. And when he looked up into the face of the Father Joseph, the cross was there as well. The Mother Mary and the Father Joseph held the baby close. They kept the baby warm, and they gave the baby everything the baby needed to grow. And it began to grow. The baby grew to be a child, and when he was about 12 years old, he went with the Mother Mary and the Father Joseph, and with many other people from the village of Nazareth, to the great city of Jerusalem, to keep one of the high holy days. When the celebration was over, the people from Nazareth went out through the great high gate and started on the road toward home. Suddenly, Mary and Joseph discovered that Jesus was not there. They thought he had been playing with the other children from their village as they walked together. They hurried back into the great city of Jerusalem to find him. Mary and Joseph looked in the dark and narrow streets. They looked in the marketplace where they had brought their food. They looked where they had spent the night. They looked everywhere. Finally, they even looked in the temple, and there he was. He was talking to the rabbis, the priests. When he spoke, they listened, because he knew so much. And when they spoke, he listened, because he wanted to learn more. Mary and Joseph then asked Jesus the question all parents ask their children. The question you can never answer. Why did you do this? And Jesus said something very strange. He said, "Didn't you know I would be in my Father's house?" Mary and Joseph did not understand. Their house was in Nazareth, where Joseph's carpenter shop was. They did not understand, but they did not forget. Jesus grew to become a man. When he was about 30 years old, he went to the River Jordan where his cousin John was baptizing people. Do you see John? You can just see the back of his head. He was a wild man. Jesus waded into the river until he was face to face with John, and he said, "Baptize me." John looked at Jesus as if for the first time. Now he saw who he really was. "How can I baptize you? You are the Messiah, the one we have been waiting for. You must baptize me." "No, it is written that you will come before me and prepare the way. Baptize me." Jesus went down to the darkness and chaos of the water, and when John lifted him back up into the light, there were people there who said they saw a dove come down from heaven and come close to him. There were also people there that day who heard a voice. The voice said, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased." After Jesus was baptized, he went on across the river Jordan into the desert, and he stayed there for 40 days and 40 nights to learn more about who he was and what his work was going to be. Jesus was in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. There was little to eat or drink. One day he heard a voice. It said, "Why don't you turn one of those stones over there into bread and have something to eat?" Jesus said, "No. To be a real human being, we need more than just bread to eat." Suddenly, it was as if Jesus were on top of the great temple in Jerusalem. The voice came back. "If you are really the Son of God, why don't you jump and see if God sends the angels to catch you before you hit the stones below?" Jesus said, "No, we do not need to test God." Then it was as if Jesus could see all the kingdoms of the world. The voice came back again. "If you will follow me, I will make you king over all these kingdoms." Jesus said, "No, I am to be a king, but not that kind of king." The voice went away. Jesus went back across the Jordan and began to do his work. But what was his work? What was his work? His work was to come close to people, especially the people no one else wanted to come close to. See, he has come close to this blind man. He is so close that he has touched the blind man's eyes. When Jesus came close to people, they changed. They could see things they could never see before. They could do things they could never do before. They became well. Jesus also told parables, and finally he knew that he had to become a parable. So he turned toward Jerusalem for the last time. Jesus went to Jerusalem for the last time. It was the time of the Passover. The city was full of people from many different lands. They thought Jesus was coming to be king, but they weren't paying attention. He wasn't riding on a great white horse when he came to the city. He wasn't being carried by soldiers. He was riding on a donkey, and it wasn't even his. He had borrowed it. Still that Sunday, when Jesus came into Jerusalem, people waved palm branches, which were a sign of kings. On Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Jesus went into the temple to teach. Every night he went back to the Mount of Olives with the 12. The people watched him and whispered. The Mount of Olives was where angels were supposed to come down to make an army to drive away the Roman soldiers. One day, when Jesus was teaching the temple, he said, "Do you see that old woman over there? She is going to put something in the money box. Listen. Do you hear anything?" No. She put the smallest coin there is in the box. That was all the money she had. Now, here comes a rich man. He has so much money to put into the box that he has to have help carrying it. His money makes a huge clanging and ringing as they pour it into the box. Now I wonder, which one really gave the most? the old woman or the rich man? Some, said the rich man, gave the most, and some, said the old woman. The temple guards said on Thursday, we will take him. But on Thursday they could not find him. That evening, Jesus and the 12 hurried through the dark streets to a house. They climbed up the stairs to an upper room and shared their Last Supper together. After they had everything they wanted to eat, Jesus took some bread and gave thanks to God for it. He broke it and said something like, "Whenever you break the bread like this and eat it and share it, I will be there." And he also took a cup of wine. He gave thanks to God for it, and he said, "Whenever you share a cup of wine like this, I will be there." What was he talking about? He was always saying things like that. How could they know? Still, they did not forget. And later they would understand. Suddenly Judas got up and left. The rest stayed to him and then went to the Garden of Gethsemane on the Mount of Olives. Jesus wanted to pray. When he was finished, he joined the 12. But Judas came out of the dark and greeted him with a kiss. This was a signal for the temple guards to take him. They too came out of the shadows and took Jesus away with them into the night. The 12 disappeared into the darkness as well. That night was a confusing one. The next day, Jesus was taken outside the walls of the city and crucified. That afternoon, Jesus died. The sky grew dark. Jesus was taken down from the cross and buried in a cave. A great stone was rolled into the opening of the cave to close it like a door. Saturday was so quiet, you could almost hear the earth breathing. On Sunday, it was the women who had the courage to go to the tomb just to be close to Jesus. They wanted to remember. Even if it was sad, they wanted to remember. When they came to the tomb, they found that the stone had been rolled back and the tomb was empty. Jesus had died on the cross, but somehow he was still with them, as he is with us, especially in the breaking of the bread. When you look at this side, you know that the other side is there. And when you look at this side, you know that this side is there also. This is the mystery of Easter, and it makes all the difference. And so, the colors change. Wait a minute. Something is wrong. Here's the beginning, and the middle, and the end. But if we only have this side, the story has an end. But there's also this side. The ending is also a beginning. So we can't leave the story in a line. Let's see what we can do. Now, the story can go on forever. I wonder what part of the story you liked best. I wonder if there's a part of the story that you think is most important. I wonder, where are you in this story? What part of the story is about you? And I wonder if there's any part of the story we can leave out and still have all the story we need. Happy Easter, everybody.